Live tonight from the virtual Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to RaceSpot TV's continuing coverage of the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. And happy that you're with us on a Monday night, as always, for round number 12. This is the SimSeats 114, and welcoming you into the broadcast booth alongside our producer Hugo Luis downstairs, Nolan Rempel and myself, Evan Pasoko, on the call with you this evening. And Nolan, we had gone basically the opening half of the regular season, right? The first 9 weeks of this year without a road course race. But all of a sudden, we get the second in 3 weeks' time. Coming off of Matt Danson's first win of the year at COTA a couple of weeks ago. Tonight could be an opportunity for him to go for win number 2, or somebody else to find themselves in victory lane.
Should be a very good run indeed. You got a lot of drivers here that are coming into this race with a lot of steam and into really what I like to kind of call at this point, Evan, the road course stage of the year. We kind of go alternating between road course oval, all the way up until Road America before we kind of get things kicked off with a couple more ovals at Atlanta and New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So you got all of these fantastic tracks combined into one big section here, meaning we're still in for one heck of a show as we continue to get closer and closer to that ever-famed race at Daytona at the end of August.
It means new opportunities. I mean, you see it there, COTA, through this race in Sonoma, with Road America, with Watkins Glen. They're basically all on the second half of this regular season. That could be big for the drivers who feel like they can score big points here at these road courses. And of course, it had a big factor when we were last time out at COTA. Remember, Matt Danson got his first win of the year there. Surprised it took to that long, but he's officially in the winners column. Let's take a look at what your playoff points look like coming into this evening. So, with a race win at COTA for Danson and Brian Chambliss's surprise victory, Nolan, last week in the SimSeats 300 up against the clock, stayed out short on fuel and was able to steal that win. We now have 8 different drivers in on wins. Now, there is one caveat to this as we take a look. Half the drivers in on wins, half the drivers in on points. Technically, coming into this evening, Daniel Eberhardt not in the postseason. Now, it doesn't go into effect now, so he's a race winner, so he shows up in the race winner column, but he's 26th in points, Nolan. He needs to be top 25 for that win to count. He is here competing tonight. Should it be a big step in the right direction for him? But look how close that bottom right-hand quarter of the screen is. From Ross Cato down to de Blasio, you've got about 7 drivers less than 30 points apart.
And the good news for Eberhardt when it comes to the whole deal of being in the top 25 is that he is only 8 points behind Eric Stanford in that 25th position, meaning that a couple of good finishes and he could find himself very easily inside the top 5. But it'd be absolutely right. I mean, even look at 15th, 16th, and 17th, separated by only about 5 points apiece between Berg, Leszczynski, and George, right at the cutoff spot as well. So, as is something very common in series that run this type of format, it's always very, very intense right around that playoff cutoff line. That's where all of the midfield battles tend to take place as well during these races.
And that's what's going to make the second half of the season so critical. And it could really help some drivers. A name that we don't see on the list there. Andrew Friedage, of course, has so many wins on the ovals, but he's another guy that's real good on the road courses. You can expect Matt Danson to be good. And not to kind of gloss over Charlotte Nolan last time out, right? But I think this race draws many more comparisons to COTA the week before. Danson didn't just walk away with that race. He had Cody Harris right there with him. Cody Harris go and get a win, right? You got guys like Kyle Trudell who have been good and have gotten race wins here at Sonoma in the past as well. So it applies to tonight. It's going to apply to the Glen. It's going to apply to Road America as well. 4 road course races in 10 weeks is heavy, and they're only going to have 1 come the playoffs. So are any of those road course winners guys that maybe even weren't on that points graphic, right? As long as they're top 25, a race win can be eligible for them. Just curious to see if it's going to be a Danson, Friedage domination on these road courses, because it could easily go that way. But it could just as likely see 4 different race winners in those 4 road races. So, and Sonoma, we were talking about it pre-race as well, is a really tricky track to drive individually, right? At COTA, there's tons of runoff space. The incident points were the big controversial thing there. A lot of drivers racked up penalty points for track limit infractions. At Sonoma, I would recommend against that because there are almost no runoffs at this racetrack, and you end up in the dead grass, and it's just like a sand trap. You're going to be slided off and into the fence and done. So you have to attack this race, I think, much more disciplined than some people did at COTA as well. Could play into some different driver strengths as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, one of the most infamous turns for having some incredibly short runoff speeds while having high speeds as well is, of course, turn 10. It's the fast right-hander right before the final hairpin at turn 11, which is arguably one of the best passing opportunities on the old layout. Potentially, though, turn 7 down that drag strip out of the carousel from 6. That is going to be a very good passing opportunity as well. But realistically, those are the only two places you can make a proper overtake by lunging one up the inside. And even then, it's not going to be nearly as big of a run that you had, at other tracks like the Circuit of the Americas. Now, of course, when you talk about drivers like road course ringers, one big talking driver coming into COTA was, of course, Liam Sheen. He was really fast at that race, and he had the pace all day long. He just wasn't able to pull it together and get in a win. However, he is within the top 25 at points, so if he can pull off a road course win today, knowing that he is good on these road courses, he could punch his ticket into the playoffs as well as our 9th different winner of the season within that playoff cut line.
It could be a big opportunity for him. I mentioned Kyle Trudell. He was able to hold off the likes of, Michael Laraya and Kyle Kamer last year. Of course, Faridaj is always somebody who's going to be good here. And what you're taking a look at now is qualifying. The rules are the same as the oval races. 2-lap single car runs. A little bit of a longer queue session than they are normally given, though. You see top left hand of your screen, 3 minutes left in what has been a 10-minute session that allows these drivers enough time to get an out lap in, and even if they have a off track or decide to park it and take it back to the pits, enough time to come around and try again. In current qualified order, left hand side of your screen, no surprise, Faridaj, Harris up there, but how about de Blasio right now, top of the board? We'll see if that holds. Very impressive stuff from de Blasio, who was 3rd best in practice. There's a look at him now. He is on lap 3, so this isn't a flyer for him. He's just using the opportunity for a bit of extra practice, and these aerial shots will do a good job, Nolan, of showing us how much elevation change there is involved. Of course, right here is where we used to go down to turn 4A, take that short shoot cut, and then skip right over to turn number 7. But NASCAR recently made that change to go back to this full circuit. It includes this inner part of the carousel, the left-hander here in 6, and then off onto the drag strip like you were just talking about.
And that hill that we just saw de Blasio go over between turn 5 and 6, that is one of the most easy places you can spin out on the track like this when you're at speed. Just, you have to get on the binders right as you go over the crest when the car is at its lightest, and when you're turning while trying to brake as well. It's the perfect disaster to see cars shoot the back end out and go flying off into the gravel. I've seen it at several other races where we've seen cup cars running at this very facility and at this very layout at that corner as well. So it would not surprise me if we saw a couple of drivers getting caught out by that tonight. That was de Blasio going through turn 9 here. Now we're going to come in for turn 10. It's also a very difficult corner. You go through here just about 4 miles an hour too fast, you're going off into the gravel and most likely those tire barriers as well, which are always itching to claim the life of another race car.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the lack of runoffs, right? We'll be talking similarly when we go to Watkins Glen, even Road America for a large part. They don't have a ton, but certainly more than these two tracks, but nothing's like COTA and all the extra paved space that they were given. And unlike at an F1 race where you would have been penalized, with a time penalty for going off track in RSR competition, they were allowed to use that space, but they were given penalty points given how much time they spent off of the racetrack and if it was excessive. You're on board with Sam Nieto at the moment. The driver of the number 2 machine is also done qualifying. He's currently P6 on the board. He's on lap number 3, so it is not timed, but doesn't mean he's not pushing it. I mean, it goes to show you with these shorter practice sessions this year, only 30 minutes, and that's not to say these drivers haven't practiced before tonight's race. It's iRacing. You can practice whatever you want. Rita is just known for putting in hours, so not to say they only get those 30, but with a shorter in-race practice sessions than in years past, we've seen a lot of this Nolan drivers using all the little bit of seconds they can get out of the Q session just for a few more laps.
And I mean, hey, why not? I mean, you at a track like Sonoma, you need all the practice that you can get. So if you have the extra time where you can go for another lap or two in qualifying, then why not take the time? And he's going to finish that lap just in time as qualifying wraps up.
That is the end of the qualifying session, and there is no drivers getting booted from this race. So everybody's ready to go trackside. Pace car on the grid. Let's go trackside and take a look at your SimSeats starting grid. It is your COTA winner, Matt Danson. Puts his Logitech G Altus Esports entry on pole with a 137.920 and will bring us to the green flag alongside Adam de Blasio. Multi-time road course winner Andrew Farinaj will start from third, and Cody Harris, runner-up 2 weeks ago, will start in position 4. Agnew Phillip get around through the top 5 in the 94 machine alongside Sam Nieto's number 2. Brandon Bowie and Kyle Kammer will double up for row number 4 with Michael Laraya and Joseph Tice the top 10.
In the 11th position, it is Rhett McBride. It is number 15 Steel Horse Racing entry, 1.3 seconds behind your race leader. But so close to him is Jaron Wymester, the number 48 Canadian driver. Going to be rounded out in 12th. Kyle Trudell in 13th with Daniel Everhart in the 14th position. Jeremy Miller is going to be in 15th place with Trey Brown is keeping it real in the number 16th position. Sean Casto is in 17th with Nick Silver in 18th. Bradley Burke and Chris Rabel round out the top half of the field.
Continue on through second half. We'll see Thomas George start 21st and Ross Cato 22nd. Dylan Jones and Brian Chambliss, your Charlotte winner, going to be 23rd and 24th. Matt Mara and Eric de Blasio 25 and 26 alongside the bubble driver in the playoff points, Marius Lischinski alongside RaceSpot's own Dylan Coyle, Dominic Count, Sean Kalish, your top 30.
In 31st, it is going to be Joe Yates with Michael Kuczynski in 32nd. Steve Durham, the last driver to set a qualifying lap of shocking 11.3 seconds behind your race leader. So a lot of work for Durham today in his SK Sim Racing number 10. William Schmidt in the 34th position with Eric Stanford in 35th. Grant Davis in the 36th with Nicholas Mara. Steve Soa, Trevor Valderrama, and Munatsi Major rounded out tonight's 40-car grid as the pace car leads them through their one and only pace lap.
So look top to bottom at your SimSeats starting grid. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from the amateur to the pro ranks, and everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, on any track, by visiting sim-seats.com to learn more. As we pace through the carousel looking for the green flag, let's welcome in our in-race reporter, RaceSpot's Dylan Coyle, 28th on the grid for this one. Dylan, I know you said you're a little bit nervous for how this 45-lap race is going to shake out. What's the key here?
I don't know if you should be necessarily asking me what the key to doing well at this track is. For me, it's going to be give everybody as much space as possible and try not to wreck before lap 1 is over.
Seems like that checks out. I think that's a good idea across the board. So I'll give you that one. It is going to be a longer race, I would think, of course, with this racetrack. It's significantly longer with the added couple of corners. 2.53 miles in length means that this afternoon's 45-lap race is going to be about 114 miles. No cautions, so pit strategy will be allowed to play itself completely through, and we will see who wins the second road course race of 2021. Left-hander with a very short runoff, as aforementioned, in turn number 10. And then the Big Bend left-hander down here headed off back to the front straightaway. The pace car heads to pit road. As always, happy that you're spending your Monday night with us on RaceSpot TV. The field in the hands of Matt Danson. He's looking for a second straight RSR road course win as we say, let's go racing from Sonoma. Some smoke and a spinner instead number 95. Off track, Bradley Burke with an issue that was headed down to turn number 4. I heard a little bit of a crunch, saw the smoke, and curious if he had some assistance on that spin, Nolan, but your race leader is able to get away, no issue, and no changes for position in the top 6.
Unfortunately, did have some help. It was Trey Brown that ended up running them over, as well as that in that same corner, you had guys like Brandon Bowie and, of course, Rhett McBride that went off course. I believe Kyle Trudell and Jeremy Miller also made contact through there as well, but only the one car ended up getting fully spun around, so that's definitely a good thing that you want to see. Field darting their way now for this very tight S section, and now up for turn 10. Matt Danson has already built himself quite a significant gap over Adam de Blasio as we look back to Nieto, who's trying to reel in the gap between Agnew Phillip and Cody Harris just up the road in the battle for 5th and 4th, down to the hairpin at speed for the first time today.
Doing his best to stay in the conversation. Nieto came into this evening, handful of points above that cut line. As we work deeper and deeper into the second half of this year, we're going to talk more and more about the point situation. Here's a second look, and it looked like there was smoke up the road, so I wonder if Bradley Burke saw somebody get a little bit of a touch in front of him, checked up, and that caused him to get run over from behind, but he was certainly assisted. And another spin is that Lischinski, who is off and into the grass. That's going down and into the carousel. And he really doesn't have much of an option but to hold it there till all the traffic comes through. Marius started this race in 27th position. He falls down to 38th after that opening lap spin.
And Jaron Weinmaster is suffering the same fate at the moment. He went off at turn number 5, I believe it was, and now he's under fire from Jeremy Miller just behind. He's already lost out to Joseph Tice for the 9th position just up the road. He's trying to hang on to the top 10. Now here comes Kyle Trudell, pounces on Weinmaster. Pounces on Jeremy Miller as Miller could not get the hammer down to the 27 car enough. Trudell looking for the inside on Weinmaster to turn 7. No dice for him, but how about Sean Casto now throwing his way up into the wings? So Jeremy Miller went from trying to go for position to falling back too.
That is the game that you play. You go for a position, but if you can't execute the pass, you're putting yourself at risk of an overtake from behind. And you can see Miller dropping back after not winning out in that battle. Sean DeCastro having to move through both of those cars, though, in the green. So positions gained from the start of this race. Brandon Bowie, somebody else who was at a really rough start to this one. The number 34 started in 7th. He's back at 18th, and he's about the 3rd car in line off of this train as look off of the back of Sean Casto, real tight in the mid-pack.
It is extremely tight right in the mid pack right now, particularly down through, of course, turn 11, which is never a surprise when you look at a lot of these fields down in the midfield of this one. That turn 11 is always going to be the best passing opportunity on the track for a lot of these guys out there. Sean Casto has got a big train of cars behind him. He's trying to fend off Jeremy Miller. Now here is a look at some of the guys further back in the field. And look at the 49 car trying to fend off Dylan Coyle just behind. Now Coyle's going to be passed up though by Grant Davis.
Hey, Grant Davis opted not to qualify in this race, so he started from the rear, but he was probably a top 15 car in practice, so we'll see if he's going to try to work his way through the field. There's the onboard look with Ross Cato as he tries to navigate through traffic. Back in the number 26 position, he is the next car up the road as he's under fire by William Schmidt, somebody else who decided not to qualify. Maybe a couple of drivers were worried that that opening lap was going to be messy. They opted not to queue, but I'd say all things considered, pretty good start to the race. Only 2 single car incidents ended up with off tracks and nothing that messy. And the opening few laps of this race allows this thing to get a little bit of momentum underneath it.
That's what you want to see. I mean, at a track like this, having those early spins is definitely nothing uncommon. And I mean, how many times even in other series do we see cars going up here? Whoa! And Dominic Howe has just had a major off down at the S's. He's lost about 5 or 6 spots now as there's one of the battles coming down into turn number 11. One driver getting passed up several spots. Nick Silver has got a loss of ground. Brandon Boo's up 2 now with just that one hairpin alone. And there you can see Daniel Emberhart and Jeremy Miller trying to pass it up. There is Howe with his major off, who somehow kept it out of those barriers, but only just.
Yeah, very fortunate. You do see the damage on the front. That was from earlier contact. That spin was on his own. Just got a little bit too much curve in the right-hander, and it upset the balance of that car, and it drifted off of the racetrack. He is fortunate that he only loses a couple of positions. He was running in position number 23 when he got a little bit loose, and he has fallen way down the running order. In fact, I think Dominic Howe's night may be done after that mistake, because he has gone to the pit lane. So Dominic Howe in for fuel, tires, and repairs. That effectively takes him out of contention. Here's the second look. Trey Browning with it off in the number 28 position. You can see the positions trickle down. That was again going into turn number 4. So a tough break for Browning, who's going to go to pit road as the battle between Miller and Casto carries on.
Miller got pushed way out wide by Sean Casto. Now look at Miller trying to fend off Eberhard just behind. Goes really aggressive on the defense there through the SS. Now down for turn number 10. Eberhard's trying to find the inside. He's going to have to work his way up, though, through turn 10 and make the run down for 11. He's not going to be able to go side by side through a corner like this. Look out for Bowie, though, in 34 car. He's going to look for position on Eberhard. Will he go for the dive bomb into 11? The number 34 car thinking about it, but just not close enough.
Thought about it, thinks better, and he will try again. You can see all of those team cars lined up. You got Casto in the mix, you got Bowie, you got Nick Silver, all of them with the rainbow colors on their cars for the month of June, celebrating Pride Month, and makes it that much easier to tell where all those Keep It Real cars are. There's about 3 of them in this 6-car battle for position, and Eberhard's been trying to pick his way through all of this. Eberhard's somebody who we always talk about as being a factor. He's held steady, running exactly where he was at the start of the race. And again, they go to the right-hander in 4. A little bit too far wide goes Miller. And here comes Eberhard trying to get to the inside. Does not work. And once again, Eberhard looked for a pass. He may lose the spot as the 34 Bowie's going to take it on the outside of him.
Maybe not for long, though. If Eberhard could get the throttle down here just off the hill, off the 6, he could maybe fight back at a 7. Looks like Boo's going to have the run, though, but look at Eberhard deeper on the brakes, trying to fight the outside line to the double hammer, but the 90 car is going to run super wide up and on the back end. Oh, and Bowie spins right at the apex of turn 7A. He's going to drop a couple of spots. Nick Silver picks up his position with Brett McBride just behind. Boo is going to drop all the way behind the 20th place car of Dylan C. Jones, with Matthew Marr trying to close in on the 23.
And you saw how wide Eberhard went. I wonder if Bowie was concerned that it was going to give him a huge run. He just overdrove it and looped it completely on his own. Brandon Bowie was 15th when he made that spin, and he has since fallen down the running order. So that's going to cost him significant spots, and it ends up being a win for Eberhard in the end, who was able to maintain position number 14. So tough break for Bowie. He drops to 20th. It makes it a minus 13 for Bowie on the night. That is second worst only to Trey Browning, who has dropped out of this race due to a connection issue. So not a good start for Brandon Bowie. After seemingly having a lot of promise with the top 10Q effort. Here's Jeremy Miller continuing his fight as he tries and tries again to stick with Sean Casto. These cars riding 12th and 13th at lap number 6.
Up ahead, Steve Durham just had a bit of a clout with Kyle Trudell. It looks as though Durham might have gone off in 5, tried to let the field through as he was coming back on. Unfortunately, Trudell just ran him over. Not sure if Durham had a piece to say in that or what happened there. You see, there is, big tank slapper there for Sean Casto and Jim Miller as they try to get past Steve Durham on the right side of the track. Now, that opens the door for Miller, who's going to go down the inside of turn 7. Sean Casto's going to try to fight the outside through 7A, but I think Jim Miller's going to have that one settled.
Yeah, they both couldn't swing all the way to the outside of the drag strip on the exit of 6 like they wanted because that traffic was there, so they had to give it a little bit more wheel to stay in the throttle, and that's why both of them got so sideways, but it certainly benefited Miller there because he makes the pass. How long? Casto sideways again, this time in turn 10, and it'll open up the inside. Daniel Eberhard on the charge, heavy braking. These cars going to get down to under 40 miles an hour in turn 11, and it was such a good corner. Eberhard nearly got 2 positions out of it, but he will move up and take over 13th.
Jim Miller ran a little bit too wide to the apex, but used that to his advantage and got the ability to carry some more momentum off of the corner, able to get the run. Oh my gosh! Backs up the corner big time though, and Eberhard nearly runs over the back of him. That backs Everhart up into Sean Castro, who's under fire from Nick Silver as well. So Silver goes down the inside, and here comes Rhett McBride also trying to throw his hat into the ring as well. So this is one heck of a battle here from about 12th place back to 16th on the track at the moment.
It is one of the tightest pack of cars from 12 through 16. Now here's Everhart at the very front to the inside of Miller. It's funny, this whole thing is only one corner, so I don't know what part of turn 6 it is, but Everhart gets to the inside, and he will make that pass. And now Daniel Everhart up to a race high P12. Up 2 spots from where he started. Look how far up the road he needs to get up to get to Jaron Weinmaster, who's having a great night in the number 48 Chevrolet, running in position number 11 at the moment. So big ups as this battle continues. And as we watch all of this in the mid-pack, you have not missed anything in the battle for the race lead. It is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the exact order in which they started this race. Danson has led to this point, but 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th are starting to close in. That is the battle on the right-hand side of your screen. Farinaj, Harris, and Phillip are trying to catch Adam de Blasio.
And de Blasio started to fall back a little bit. He was up as close as 0.6 of a second a few laps ago, so de Blasio has not been having the best of times out there on the track. So you see there is Cody Harris on the right side trying to close in Andrew Freenage, who in turn is trying to run down Adam de Blasio. Of course, you got Freenage, one of the winningest drivers, and of course, 3-time defending champion, back to back, trying to pick up yet another road course win for himself today here at the Sonoma Raceway. Kind of checking in, if I may, here on Jeremy Miller a little bit more. You were talking about you're not sure what. Oh, heads up, Sean Castile. I'll get back to that in a moment. He's just had a big spin. That was down, I believe, through turn 4A or 3A, excuse me.
He was at the top, yeah, coming through 3. He has it off, and let's take a look with the onboard camera. And just loose on his own. I mean, you have to be very careful applying the throttle in these NASCAR Cup Series cars, and you just get a little bit too excited, if you will. It is very easy to loop that, and that was the coming through the left-hander in 3, going to the right-hander for 3A, where he was unable to catch that race car and spins it out. Daniel Everhart again going way wide. He really enjoys doing that down there at the far end of the racetrack. I mean, he's always using a ton of racetrack.
Used a bit too much that time and vaulted up and over some of the curbs at turn 7A as well. That's only going to damage your run, so he runs way too wide. I have a feeling he just missed the breaking point because look at how wide he goes. There's a car ahead of him that even decided to take turn 7A proper, and that was the number 30 machine actually that did that, of Michael Kuczynski. So interesting move from there. Of course, Kuczynski 1 lap down, so I think he might have taken that corner to try to let the field through, and didn't quite go his way because Everhart followed him. Talk about target fixation.
We see that on the ovals all the time, where somebody drives into the fence off of the corner and, 2, 3 cars behind them follow. Not quite frequently here. Oh, and a spin. Everhart sideways and off and into the grass once more. That time, the problem was just in turn number 1, where it broke sideways. He will rejoin traffic, but instead of being +2, now he's -5 on the afternoon as he trickles down to 19th position. Here's the onboard look. Man, that thing snapped really quick. I wonder if there was a bump, because he was way to the right-hand side. Don't look like he went way to the outside to try to get a nice cut in, but that thing snapped around very quickly.
He downshifted him, and that's the problem. He downshifted from, I believe it was 4th to 3rd, and, well, that's what sent the back end around on him. Yeah, exactly. Prime example of why I can't do that. It's another easy mistake to do. We've been talking about easy mistakes to make at this track, and I mean, you look at Jim Miller's. Here's another replay of Everhart making yet another mistake. This time, he wasn't just right for the exit. He just kept trying to get the hammer down way too early, and went from there. We talked about Jim Miller.
I just want to mention real quick, he parked that car. We talked about the importance of points, right, coming into this evening, that Daniel Everhart needs to be a top 25 for his race win earlier this year to count, right? He was 26th coming into this evening, but he has parked that car after those 2 mistakes. And that lack of discipline is probably going to cost him more spots in the points. So I just wanted to get that point in real quick before we forget that could have big championship implications. He's likely going to be lower than P26 after tonight as we pick up the battle for 2nd.
And it is all sorts of close now, and they're in the midst of lap traffic as well. You got Trevor Valderrama just up the road, and that 0-2 car is really holding up de Blasio, backing him up, and Andrew Freenosh is going to move to the right, let the field through on the left. Cody Harris is forced wide off the racing line, though so is Agno Phillip. Phillip's got to back it up even further, though, because he's actually further back into the braking zone. So now it's really between Freenosh and de Blasio until Harris can kind of get himself reeled back in. Oh, but he runs really wide. Harris does, up and almost into the grass. Just 2 tires into that grass at the exit of turn 6 is all it's going to take to send these cars around.
It is that easy. We talk about the off track and how there's little to no runoff space at many parts of the racetrack going to be a concern for you, but I mean, I think tire conservation going to be big, even if you can keep it on track. A lot of drivers were commenting on how hot this racetrack was. Track temp is 126 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a May race day in the iRacing service. You're in southern, kind of I don't know if it's really northern California. I guess kind of Central Valley at this point, but it is hot. And that means that track temps are up, grip is down, and that would explain all of the slipping and sliding we've seen tonight, but not for the lack of good action. This battle for second on back quickly shaping up to be a good fight.
Duty is, so Freenosh. What can Freenosh do here to try to reel in, of course, de Blasio? Now, it's important to remember as well that at this point, Freenosh he really doesn't need to worry about this a whole lot. He's already got like 4 wins on the season now. But Freenosh is more than secure in the playoff spots where he is. He really just has to kind of keep this together and just keep showing up on a weekly basis so he can make sure that he can at least preserve his own playoff spot. He's in it for the glory, and we've talked about that a few times so far throughout the course of this season. Now the question is, how desperate is Freenosh going to be to go for those extra wins?
It's all going to help him in the round of 16. The playoff system in the SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series is not identical to that of what you see today in the NASCAR Cup Series. There's no playoff points and whatnot, but it uses the old chase format of through the rounds, you get 3 bonus points for a win. So, say you get 3 different race wins in the regular season, you'll start 9 points ahead of everybody else who did not for the opening round of the postseason. I just found it interesting how good Danson's been early in this one, because that race at COTA was a scrap, right? That was the first race since here in 2017 where 4 different drivers led a lap in an RSR road course race. Danson won the race by leading 8 laps. Cody Harris led 8 laps, finished second. Brandon Bowie was the dominant car who has struggled tonight. He led the most laps at 13, but he finished third, and Liam Sheen led 5 laps en route to a P4 finish. It was not about Danson domination. Tonight, he has been perfect so far, and he has opened up a race lead advantage now. You see the left-hand side of your screen, about 4.5 seconds and pulling.
3.5 seconds, and it's going to be almost 4 seconds now, as Danson is still on an absolute tear right now. He is trying to work so hard at working his way up there, and now here is Jeremy Miller, and Miller, of course, is not having a decent time at all of things right now. He's still in that very hot battle with Nick Silver, still struggling a little bit with turn 4 as well, and this is the point I didn't manage to get it earlier because we had so much going on at the track, but the reason why Miller was struggling so much with turn 4 in particular, it's a downhill braking zone, and there was nothing you can use visually to help you out with trying to brake. There are no braking boards, there are no braking cones or anything to help you out with. You have to feel your way onto the brakes through that corner. That is what makes it so easy. In fact, of all the corners where you've seen minor people having these little offs, that is one of the most common so far on the night. I mean, you look at how Nick Silver is really catching him up as well. I mean, that number 3 car is certainly having a rough go of things as well, trying to just get past Jimmy Miller. It's at the point now where Silver, I would honestly say Silver's being held up by Miller. He just hasn't been able to get a proper run off one of these corners, find a way through it. Look at him trying to go for the bump and run in turn 7, but just not successful.
Maybe a little bit of a touch, tries to go for the undercut now through the S's. I think it is definitely fair to say that Miller is holding these cars up because they are starting to stack up behind him. Silver, McBride, and Bowie all within 1 second of Jeremy Miller. Up front, you're seeing the same thing, right? I bet if Andrew Freenosh was clear of Adam de Blasio, probably be a little bit quicker than he has been, but it is difficult to make passes here You talk about the points that where passing's a good possibility. Down on the end of the drag strip, coming out of 6 down to 7. Of course, the hairpin in turn 11. Those are all good options. You can see Fridage's attempt to the inside, and he just really had to drive it in hard, but lock the tires up, and that's why that number 21 machine was able to come back on the left-hand side and defend. So you have limited options to make passes. Now, mistakes are the other way in which drivers can pick up spots, but to de Blasio's credit, he has been largely mistake-free thus far, but I mean, he's hanging on to P2 by a thread here because I feel like as soon as he loses second, he could be down to 5th, just like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's such a difficult thing to do. I mean, look at now as you've got Cody Harris now trying to fight his way around the outside of Andrew Friedrich. Harris has done waiting as well. He's at the point now where he's saying, all right, well, if you're not going to make the move to get around de Blasio, let me buy it, let me have a crack at it, because I want to get going. I don't want to be stuck behind both of you. That's a driver that really wants to go. Now, we saw Friedrich's big lock of that last time by down to the turn 11. That is also a very important thing that these guys have. They have to watch out for it. It's so difficult to try to find it. Look at Friedrich now, way down the inside and off the racetrack, even into turn 11. Cody Harris also goes by. De Blasio trying to fight it back. Oh, and he clips Friedrich. All 4 cars get pushed off that track. Major damage down for Friedrich.
It all fell apart in the run down to turn number 11. Friedrich drove it in hard to the inside. He took out Cones, but he overdrove the corner just a little bit. That allowed Harris to get to the inside. And as Friedrich spun the tires to get back on the gas, he got tagged. So he takes out the Cones, but see, he can't hold the bottom. So Harris gets there, but right there, Friedrich is loose on his own. So I don't think you could really blame the number 21 mission of Adam de Blasio that much there, because it was Friedrich who was sideways. The 21 and the 6 were holding speed. They get together. Agnew Phillip gets a piece, and how about 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th together? Now Kamers off the racetrack on the turn into the infield.
And that was down at turn 4, Kamers' incident was, and I think that was another classic case of just outbreaking yourself like we've seen Jeremy Miller have been doing all night long so far. Once again, turn 4, the profile of the corner is such a difficult thing to do, and it looks like maybe even the 15 car Brett McBride just did the same thing. In fact, he did, and that allowed Brandon Bowie to pick up the 13th position. And touching back up on the battle for P2 that's now coming back up to turn 11. Now we'll have to see if it increases in intensity like it did the last time by. I want to point out as well that incident there, it almost reminded me of kind of what we saw actually just in the Cup race, the NASCAR Cup Series race just this past Sunday. Remember when Ross Chastain sent one down the inside of Corey LaJoie, took out a couple drivers like Kevin Harvick as well, who had some massive damage. Going on the brakes in a corner like this, it's so tricky. You have to be careful. Cody Harris is trying to have a run here at de Blasio. He's not going to slide it out like Chastain did. And you know what? Harris might have gotten away with that when the 75 car pulls off the track to let it through. De Blasio, though, fights there back with the momentum and continues to hold on to 2nd place.
He is not by any means the most aggressive of drivers into 11, and that's why lap after lap somebody is dive bombing it on the bottom. But there is clearly a method to the madness for de Blasio, because they're able to drive it in. In the case of Cody Harris, they're basically get all the way past him, but because they drive it so far into the corner, they can't drive it off the corner. Harris again, this time in 4. He is all over de Blasio as they beat and bang head of the carousel. Again, they touch, and finally, Cody Harris will push his way through and take over 2nd spot. And now de Blasio's left to the wolves. Friedrich to the inside, Phillip to the outside. A 3-way battle for 3rd.
This is stock car racing at its finest, beating and banging just the way it should be. Phillip now tries to get a run. De Blasio blocks. He gets given the bumpers. Friedrich tries to push around the outside line, trying a gun for 3rd now. De Blasio somehow continues to hold on despite being 3 wide through turn 6 for just a brief moment. Now Phillip is side by side with Friedrich. Neither one of these drivers want to let up as well, and this is giving de Blasio a precious gap to manage. Friedrich gonna come out through turn 9 and now down to the long left-hander before turn 10, and finally Phillip decides to yield.
A lot of talent inside of your top 4. Matt Danson, Agnew Phillip, Andrew Friedrich, drivers all who have been competing in the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying, iRacing series, several of them still with a real good opportunity to make it to round 2 and have a real good look at maybe racing at the top level of NASCAR and iRacing with the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And what a race that these guys have been putting on. And the infighting here between Ferdinand and Philip is only going to help de Blasio, right? De Blasio is probably the slowest car in the top 5, but he's not slow enough for these drivers to be able to easily just skate on past. That's the big thing. So that's why it's been such a challenge. Ferdinand now off to the left-hand side of the racetrack, but keeps his foot in it, stays ahead of Agnew Phillip. I mean, all this is doing is helping de Blasio pull away.
And you saw as well in the onboard shot right before it cut away, Agnew Phillip did give Freenach the bumper up through turn 3A. I'm not sure it was intentional, though. I did hear Phillip kind of issued a little apology to Freenach over the radio, so I think he might have just overshot his braking point and didn't realize Freenach was going to still be so close as he cuts it back. Will Phillip try for 7? Little deeper on the brakes, a little braver as well. That's going to force Freenach offline and wide. Phillip going to cut it in for 7A, and he will easily take away the 4th position. A much clearer pass this time round. All this balance has allowed drivers like Sam Nieto to close in just behind that number 2 car. He's only got one lap car separating both Freenach and himself, and that is Sean Calist, who will no doubt move out of these guys' way in short order. Don't discount Michael Laraya as well, though, in the 44 car, who started to push his way into the mix as well.
And Laraya was somebody else who I think showed some promise in that Coda race, the top 10 finisher. Very clean race as well, going to be critical. But not only has all that fighting allowed cars from behind to catch up, but Nolan, it allowed the race leader to check out. Right? We were talking about Matt Danson having a 4-second advantage, a 5-second advantage. That battle for P2 that went on for so long has effectively taken all of those cars out of the battle for the race lead. I mean, it has given Danson a huge advantage to more than last time. By the difference between 1st and 2nd was 13 seconds on the racetrack. I don't think Matt Danson is 13 seconds faster than Cody Harris, but Danson got pole, has been unchallenged. Harris had to fight hard, scrap to finally get through after 15 laps, and that goes to show you how important that track position is a big benefit to Danson here as you take a look at Sam Nieto and Michael Laraya side by side for 6 and 7. Give it to the 44.
And Nieto tried to kind of back out and go for the crossover, get the momentum off in turn 6, but there just was nothing in it. You know, that number 2 car just didn't have the speed under him, and look at already how big of a gap Laraya has pulled ahead on Nieto. He is trying to run down to injure Freenach right now to see if he can punch his ticket up into the top 5. And the way he's running right now, it's not out of the question for sure. And I mean, you got as well, like you said, Matt Danson, 13.4 seconds up in front now, but that doesn't mean he's won the race by any stretch of the means. I mean, this is a track that can catch even the best of drivers out. I mean, in one mistake, he is going to be right back in these guys' clutches as Lischinski backs off and allows the leading field to start to go through as well.
And starting to think pit stops will be coming up soon. The only drivers that have been down pit road to this point have been for repairs. Sonoma is a racetrack that can sometimes lend itself, and there you go, just as I say it on cue, Kyle Kamer is in at lap number 18. He is joined by Sean Kalist on pit road. Kalist pitting from a lap down. So we do have cars in, 18 laps complete. Kind of a weird time, admittedly, Nolan. 18 down, 27 to go. Is shy of halfway. It's kind of the non-committal one-stopper or two as we see Nick Silver drive up the inside of Jaron Winemaster. I would have thought at this point you just get to lap 22 and you're halfway.
Whoa, Winemaster twitching the back end a little bit. That's going to give Nick Silver a bit of breathing room to work with. On the subject, though, of going to the halfway point, I mean, a lot of these drivers have been pushing these cars to the absolute limit so far in this opening stage. They're trying to get those positions now because you might not be able to get them later on in the race. And I think that's burned off a lot of the excess fuel for a lot of these drivers. Either that, or they were trying to, put this all up high. And they were trying to put this all up, maybe have a fast in the early stages so they have the ability to go longer and more conservative in the tail of the race. I did see Eric Stanford stopped on the front stretch. I think he might have had a bit of a moment out of the final corner, cross start finish line just a few seconds ago.
Don't spin the left-hander in 12. The only reason I knew anything about it is because somebody else was on the radio saying, look out, wreck it in the front. Stanford was on his own P26 as the last car in the lead lap spins it around without incident. Keeps going. Of course, no caution. Here's a look at Matthew Barr. I haven't talked much about him, but up 5 in the Barr Motorsports entry. The number 23 car is up to 20th position. Doing a very good job. Of course, we like to talk about the battle between Matt and Nick, but looks like Nick Barr down in 33rd, so Matt winning the battle between those two at the moment. And a good segue, I think, as always, to give a shout out to the After the Laps podcast. You can join Nick Barra, Matt Danson, and special guests every Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time for a new episode of the After the Laps podcast, the official podcast of RealSimRacing, available anytime at afterthelaps.com and wherever you get your podcasts. And right when we're doing the plug, Matt decides to go for a spin in turn 11 and go for the shortcut. So I'll just say that we jinxed a bat on that one. So that'll be a fun conversation. I'll have to double check, but it is different guests each week, so I'll have to scroll through and see if I can find who is the guest on the podcast tomorrow. And you're going to want to tune in for that one. And I'll use the opportunity, Nolan, it's going to be Brandon Bowie as the Brandon Bowie was last week. So Michael Kaczynski is the guest tomorrow. And then, of course, next week, and Hugo beat me to it by getting it up on the screen. And then next week, I'll be hanging out on the podcast after our All-Star race, which still, by the way, is to be determined. We'll announce that a little bit later this week, so I'll plug the RSR social channels at RealSimRacing on Twitter and Facebook.com/RealSimRacing online to find out info on where we're going to be next Monday night for the SimSeats All-Star race. That'll be a lot of fun.
And while Mara was just cursed a little bit more, Brian Chambliss had a spin in front of him down at turn 4, and now the front end of Matthew Barr's car is all sorts of jacked up, so he's going to have a really rough time trying to negotiate that car back down to pit road. Pit stops are also underway for other guys. You saw Freenosh was just down pit road there as well, crawling his way through. Here is that battle now for 3rd and 4th. Agno Phillip and Adam de Blasio still trying to do battle for spots just inside the top 5. Of course, Freenosh can be expected to cycle his way back up into this battle once the pit stops cycle through as well.
And we're looking at about 3 3/4 seconds of tire fall off from the start of the run to the end of the run. So Freenosh says after 19 laps, he wants to come in. He blends back out onto the racetrack with 26 laps to go. Could he go to the end? Not a good place for him, though, blending out in all this traffic. He just about ran over Chris Rabel. That was the puff of smoke as he got onto the brakes and doing everything he can to get by the lapped traffic. Hamer's going to get into the back of him as well. Freenosh really would have enjoyed getting out into a pocket of clean air, because by going for the undercut right here is where he needs to try to make up time.
Whenever you're going for an undercut, you always want to make sure you're not going to come out in traffic like this. Otherwise, it's going to completely neutralize the run you might have otherwise gotten on the fresh tires. But at a track like Sonoma, especially with how spread out the field is, there is no pocket of clean air realistically. You're going to be encountering traffic wherever you go. It's just the count of how much traffic you're going to encounter. And unfortunately, Freenosh came out right in front of a group of guys that are still battling very hard, as you saw Kamer trying to take advantage. Oh, and wow, he had a big jump over the curves there as he tried to get a run on Jeremy Miller down into the braking zone. That did not work out so well for him, so now he's under fire from Chris Rabel just behind.
Just battling all throughout the racetrack, and it includes drivers who are, laps down. Kyle Trudell is in. Brandon Bowie also pitting from a top 10 position. Danson 1, Harris 2, still yet to pit, but here comes the number 9, Thomas George, going to come in from 13th. I haven't really touched on it, but pit lane doesn't actually start till right over here where those cones are, right? So that whole outside area around the hairpin, there is no speed limit in effect. So drivers sometimes can get a little bit too overzealous and overcook it down at that part and get into the fence there. It's one of the trickier pit road entries, especially for road course.
Not to mention, if you got a car that overcooks it too much and ends up spinning the tires, you got a car that size in that section, that's a recipe for disaster. There is no second lane. You got room for one car, and that is it. So if you got a car stopped in the middle of that area, good luck trying to find a way through. It's not going to happen. So we're kind of lucky at this point with how fast some of these guys have been entering that pit road that has not yet happened today. Of course, a lot of very talented guys running in this series as well. That's been made evident even just in this race so far with how clean some of these cars are still looking out there on the track. Two of the cleaner cars out there. Eric de Blasio, who clips the grass, and William Schmidt. Schmidt trying to go down the side of de Blasio, picks up position in the background. Matthew Marr, you saw the puff of smoke, went for another spin down to the turn number 4 after locking up the tires on entry.
These corners have been tricky. We've seen a lot of people overshooting, a lot of missteps. Look at the big slide there through the center of the quarter number 6 part of the racetrack is chasing down the 15 machine of Rhett McBride. There was de Blasio. All of this is kind of for position. William Schmidt, who's able to get on through, is battling for position. De Blasio there as well, and you see Lariah down pit road, Tice down pit road. All these cars coming in just shy of halfway. I would think, though, that you're too close to halfway to really be giving it an honest effort of a 2-stopper. So I feel like if these cars are handling bad now, Nolan, they're going to be awful in the last 10 laps of the race. I'm expecting cars to pit basically now, right? This time or next time by is effectively the halfway point in the race, and don't be shocked if Danson, Harris, Phillip, and company are down pit road in quick order.
Now, of course, here's an even bigger question now. What do you do about some of the guys that have already been out for, 5 or so laps? They're going to be in for one heck of a time when we get around to the later stages of the race. So it's a lot of these guys are in for a really rough time at the moment. And I'm a bit surprised that Matt Danson himself has not come in. But I think maybe in the next couple laps or so, like you said, that would be the optimal time to come down pit road as well. So have to keep an eye on our leaders, see when they're going to come down to the lane as well. There is de Blasio, Adam de Blasio, that is, currently darting his way out and around the track. He is going to make his run to pit road with the third place driver, Agno Phillip, just up the road from him.
So they will come down pit road from 3rd and 4th position. That will leave about 8 or 9 cars yet to pit, but most of those cars are, cars in traffic like Schmidt, Eric de Blasio, Chambliss, Mara. Some of those guys towards the mid-pack have yet to come down pit road, but up front, Danson, Harris, and our new 3rd-placed runner, Sam Nieto, have still yet to pit. The leader on the pit cycle is Andrew Faridaj, but even I'm not sure with that big of an undercut if he'll be ahead of Danson when Danson is out of pit road. And again, if he does, there's going to be 6-7 lap difference on those tires. Faridaj's last lap was a 140.7. Danson was a 143.4. So you only got about a 3-second difference. Faridaj pitted 3 laps ago, 9 seconds or so. I still don't think that's in the window of getting Danson, who had been enjoying about 13, 14 seconds plus. But you never know. And we did cross halfway point last time through, so we'll take a look top to bottom at a midway race break in just a moment, as soon as all of this pit service completely cycles through, and it'd be a good opportunity to take stock on where everybody ends up. But I would say Danson's coming this time.
It's a reasonable assumption to think. I mean, you made it halfway on these tires. No point in staying out for longer, but that's what he's going to do.
I tried to call it, and he's killing me.
Well, what do you think? Next time by? Because, I mean, at this point, he's over halfway. He's in the second half of the race. He's not going to benefit anymore by staying out on those older tires now.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt him or benefit him either way. There is no chance of a green-white checkered or overtime, so it's not like you need to save tires for the end of the race. It's not like you need to save fuel, as we see Cody Harris predictably pit from the number 2 position at the halfway point. Sam Nieto behind him in 3rd is pitting at the halfway point. So, like I said, I don't think Danson's going to be hurt by this. I don't think it's going to help him. But to be fair, he did have a very calm first half of the race, right? He didn't see anybody. Probably had to work pretty hard in the opening 5 to get that gap, but I don't think he had to eat away at those tires that much, so maybe that's why he's not that concerned with getting them off. The only thing I can think of is maybe he's looking at the pit interval, right? So these cars spend about 42 seconds on pit road. When you add in the amount of time it takes to go around that hairpin, get up to speed, say roughly 50 seconds. The only thing I could think of, if it's a strategic reason, is that Danson's looking at his timing on scoring screen, and 50 seconds behind him is a pack of cars like this, right? Faridaj came out of pit road, got into a pack of cars. That is the last thing Matt Danson would want to see. So strategically, I say if there's any excuse, it's that he does not like where he would have cycled on that lap. Alternatively, I just don't think it's that huge of a factor for him giving his advantage. And I mean, you were looking at this pack from Kyle Kamer in the 8 car on the back for 3rd through 7th position. And Danson is now pitting from the race lead. So just 1 lap later, not a huge difference, but your race leader is in.
The race leader is in. He'll most likely cycle out still a good distance in front of this battle at the moment. And this is one fierce battle as well. You got guys on old tires mixed in with guys on, new work tires at least. Lariah goes around the outside and Kamer down into the brake zone for 7. Kind of clips over the yellow line at the edge of the track. He's going to get the momentum, though, down into the S's here. So Lariah goes through. Kamer finally falls back. Phillip, the next driver to pounce.
They come down through the S's. Danson just now getting to his stall. I think it's still going to be well in favor to Danson. You'll probably see them as Phillip goes to the inside of the 8 car. That is not a place you really want to be side by side. The battle is for 4th at the moment. Look out, here comes Harris to the inside again. He gets on the brakes so aggressively through the corner, a touch. And these guys just continue to beat and bang. What a fight for positions 3 on back. Danson has already blended up onto the racetrack. No problems. He maintains the race lead. Friedage is 2nd, and this is the gaggle for 3rd on the back. Really focusing now on the battle for 6th on the back. De Blasio going to have to hold off Trudell and Kamer here. Of these cars, Trudell actually and Kamer were the oldest of tires, so it'd be tough for those guys to come back because they pitted some 7 laps ago as one of the earlier couple of cars to have come down pit road for service.
Tell you what, Kamer did not have a really fun time there. Ended up dropping out from about the 3rd position all the way back to 8th in the process. So, that was not fun for Kamer at all. I know the feeling. You end up getting sandwiched up in the middle of these battles that you don't think are quite your doing. Here's a battle, though, that Lariah is now going to have to be worried about here. Phillip down the inside for the double hairpin of 7 and 7A. Very easy pass there for the 94 car.
To the bottom, I'm just so impressed with how aggressive Harris could be driving it in lap after lap after lap, and a successful defense that time through. But I mean, it's crazy how far back the number 6 car came from. This battle is going to continue, but this time by going to be 20 laps to go from Sonoma. Let's take this opportunity to take a look at your sim seats midway race break. So Matt Danson, running order left-hand side of your screen, continues to lead as there's another dive bomb by Harris to the inside. This time it will work ahead of the 44. So Danson's leading. His advantage is some 12 seconds over Andrew Friedage, who sits in 2nd. And then of this battle that we've been watching since pit stops, Agnel Phillip has ended up in the front. That puts him to position number 3. So Cody Harris right there with that move up to P4, ahead of Michael Lariah in 5th, and Adam De Blasio P6. That's that trio of cars on screen now. Just behind them, the gray Chevy of Kyle Trudell is 7th. A little bit further back, the white and green entry of Kyle Kamer is at 8th spot, ahead of Brandon DeBowie 9th, and Sam Nieto rounds out our top 10 at the moment.
Then, of course, back there, you're going to have Joseph Tice just outside of the top 10 as well. Currently running a bit of a no man's land for Tice at the moment. He's got 5 seconds of the car in front of him, about another 2.5 seconds of the car behind, which is Rhett McBride in 12th. Nick Silver is in 13th with Wymester 14th. Sean Casto is currently in somewhat of a half battle with Thomas George for 15th and 16th place out there on the track. Chris Rabel is in 17th. Jeremy Miller in 18th. He is still falling back down the order, so Miller certainly having a rough night tonight. Bradley Burke and Ross Cato round out the final half of the field overall, over a minute behind your race leader of Matt Danson.
They've got a ways to go with, you mentioned De Blasio, Schmidt, Davis, Chambliss, Mara. Those are the drivers through position number 25, and that is it on the lead lap at the moment. There was a lot of cars that lap down there. Joe Yakes, Eric Stanford, Manazzi Major just spun from 28th. Sean Kalist is 29th, and Steve Soa, the top 30.
And now we're starting to reach into cars while they've not finished the race. Of course, Valderrama still finished the race. Nicholas Mara, though, is in pit road and out of his car still 4 laps down. Then, of course, you got Lashinsky, who's 9 laps down. Dylan Jones, 16 down. Everhard, 17. Dylan Coyle in the 36th position, 17 laps down as well. Michael Kuczynski, Steve Durham, Trey Brown, and Dominic Howe fall out from there. Dominic Howe, of course, 23 laps down. Didn't complete more than 2 laps in tonight's event. So a lot of drivers have fallen out. So the attrition rate has been somewhat high. Being a road course, though, no cautions to really help them get back up there.
It's tough. It comes down to speed, and it comes down to consistency. That's been a look top to bottom at your SimSeats Midway Race Break. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from the amateur to the pro ranks, and everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, and on any track by visiting sim-seats.com to learn more. Just because the battle for the race lead has been non-existent since lap number 2 doesn't mean we don't have a ton on the racetrack. Brandon Bowie in a battle there you just saw with Kyle Kamer. So 34 gets the spot. He moves up into position number 8.
And there goes Brandon Bowie to go down to the inside of a lap car of Eric Stanford. So Kamer going to try to maybe get the runoff and try to retake the 8th position, but Bowie is going to maintain the outside line. They've got 10th place Sandietta waiting in the wings as well. Whoa, heads up. Stanford just had another spin behind him on the front straightaway. And this time he is also taking it back to the road before he even hit the wall. So Eric Stanford, clearly not happy. That was the second time this race he's made that same mistake in the exact same place on the track as well.
I don't know if I've seen anybody else have such an issue with turn 12, but Stanford for the second time tonight.
Oh, heads up, right up the road. It's a track blockage for a brief moment as Yates is trying to back it up and off the racing line.
Look out. A lot of cars trying to come through. That was Joe Yakes in the 87, and he may have had some assistance. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah, that's Michael Laraya who was behind him. Yakes running 26th, Laraya running 6th, and just not a lot of patience with that lapped car. Spun Yakes around, and then when he came to a stop, Kyle Trudell got a bit of damage as well.
Now the battle for third is underway as well, with Agno Phillip losing out to Cody Harris, who puts himself up into the podium. So Harris still driving aggressively. They've caught Freenosh now in second place. They're trying to take away that spot from him as well. Freenosh at the moment, a win for him is a bit of a far cry at the moment, with him being almost 20 seconds behind Matt Danson, who has just dominated the race today. So at the moment, he's just trying to cling on to whatever spots he can get.
He's been oh so good, and the story here is the tire difference. Cody Harris with 4 lap better tires than Freenosh. Philip de Blasio with 3 lap better tires. You can see it there. There's just no bite off of the corner for Freenosh. Oh, and Philip gets sideways. What a catch by the 94. He just about Eric Stanforded it onto the front straightaway. Caught it. He will lose a spot as Adam de Blasio gets on through, but could have been a lot worse for Agnell Phillip.
I'll take a ride on board with Phillip now, down for the front straightaway through turn 12. Has he just lost it on the entry? No, at the apex, he got the power. Look at the wheel work. Turning that wheel almost completely to the right in an effort to keep that car straight. So some great car control there from Phillip. I tell you what, Evan, I mean, I was even talking about this earlier in the race. I mean, I seldom see an exciting race at Sonoma, even less so in stock cars. Well, this has been proving me wrong today. This has been, I mean, one heck of a race we've been seeing so far over the course of the day, but there hasn't been one lap where there hasn't been something going on the track. So it's definitely an incredibly good change of pace compared to how I see these races usually tending to play out.
Yeah, we saw a similar kind of race at Coda. There's so to the left-hand side, getting out of the way for Subpar Racing and the Bud Light Chevy Camaro. In Coda, it was the battle for the win, right? I mentioned that it was the first time since this race in 2017 where 4 different drivers led a lap at an RSR road course race. It was great stuff up front. Tonight, it's a different kind of battle. Danson checked out, seemingly on cruise control, looking for his second win of the year, and to sweep the road courses thus far in 2021. But you don't see people for positions, outside of the difference between 1 and 2, you don't see the difference being 5 seconds here, 4 seconds there, 6, right? I mean, you have big packs like this. Freenosh, de Blasio, and Phillip, 3-way battle for 3rd. Bowie and Trudell fighting for 7 and 8. Kamer and Nieto for 9 and 10. I mean, There is a lot of great action, and it's been physical. I mean, it has been a barn burner of a road race thus far.
And I think part of what helps with that is actually the track length itself. I mean, you got Coda. It's a great track when it comes to racing, but it's also pretty long by Cup car standards. I mean, that track is like, what, 3.6 miles long? If memory serves me right, somewhere around that range, 3.6 to 4 miles in length. It is a very long track, and that means there's a lot more room for various drivers to be able to get themselves spread out across the track. Not here, only 2.53 miles. That's only about 3/100th of a mile longer than Daytona International Speedway's oval configuration. And that means that there's a lot less room for these cars to work with. Not to mention the track is a heck of a lot tighter as well, all the way throughout.
Yeah, it is very different tracks. Coda's wide, has runoffs. This track has a lot. Now, Coda does have elevation change, don't get me wrong, but it just feels different at Sonoma. I know that this makes sense, but Sonoma, you have, I think, a lot more abrupt up and down. You can see down through the S's. If you look off in the horizon, I mean, look how low the back end of the racetrack is, where turns 11 and 12 are compared to where we are. At Coda, you have the elevation change, but it's more so like you got a big hill on this straight, you got a big hill on that straight. Sonoma, I think, built into the landscape much more, makes it a fun track. But, just looking at all these fights on board with Agnel Phillip, see if he's a little bit more disciplined this time through this kink. I mean, we don't talk about turn 12 a lot. Nolan, I know we've been talking pre-race. You talked about how the fact that Sonoma is not your favorite of the road races, but this racetrack is, in theory, they say it's 12 corners. It could probably be 18 if we counted corners correctly. One of the corners that we don't talk about that is counted is that left-hand kink in 12, where Stanford has had the issues, or Agnel Phillip had that scare. Really didn't think that was going to be a trouble spot, but that little bit of that left-hander where it looks like it's real bumpy and it's at on-throttle point has been one of the trickier turns tonight for these drivers to navigate.
It absolutely has. I mean, turn 12, the problem with turn 12 when it comes to these Cup cars, it's not the turn itself, it's the way the Cup cars themselves are in relation to it. That's a point of the track where they are still on throttle. When you get these cars that, have 550 horsepower at their very least on some of the oval packages, let alone on the road courses, and that's 550 horsepower being sent right to the rear wheels on cars that are meant to turn left and left alone. They are not designed for road course racing. So when you get corners like that thrown into the mix, it's the fact that they're so incredibly tight. These cars do not have a lot of downforce on them. It's the wheel spin. They're still in the stages. They're going from second to third gear, which is still a big point where you can spin the wheels. That's what we saw happen with Agnel Phillip as he just got the hammer down a bit too much for turn 12. You really have to kind of feather the throttle all the way through that corner, and even turn 1 in itself, which starts back up for turn 2, under braking and then uphill braking zone, which is a whole other challenge in of itself that we've seen come into play today as well.
It has been an awfully exciting race. It's a tricky track. These road races are different than that of the ovals. I'd compare it to like a Darlington, and that sounds outrageous, but that's a track where it's driver versus track, and there's other cars around. That's what road racing is driver versus track plus traffic. You can see Valderrama's got a lot of heavy damage behind the number 7 car of Kyle Trudell, who is up 5 from where he started this race with a clean car. Which can't be said for a lot of the drivers in the top 10. You can see the front's got a little bit of damage, but it's just been a physical race, an uncharacteristically physical race. We saw hard racing for the lead at Coda. We didn't see the amount of contact that we've seen here tonight at Sonoma, and as we are with inside of 15 laps to go in this SimSeats 114, all appears to be decided for the very top step on the podium, but everything from there on back still undecided. 22 of the 40 cars who started this race still on the lead lap.
And one of the closest battles we've got on the track at the moment is this fight between second and third position for Freenach and de Blasio, with Phillip just trying to reel him in just behind. This is about for third, fourth, and fifth out there. You got Cody Harris just a little ways up the road in that red and gray number 6 machine, who's still trying to work his way up there. So right now, Freenach, he's all worried about what's behind him, though, as Cody Harris continues to extend the gap further and further out in front. Now the question is going to be on de Blasio, and the pressure is going to be on de Blasio, too, because not only does he have to worry about getting by Freenach, he also has to worry about keeping Phillip at bay and making sure that Phillip can't get a run, because I can almost guarantee you, but with how aggressive Agnel Phillip has been the whole course of this race, if he sees a chance where he can go on Freenach by getting by de Blasio sooner, he's going to go for that move.
Oh yeah, they have not been afraid to force the issue per se. They have not, maybe in the first 5 laps, they maybe gave Adam de Blasio a little bit too much courtesy, right? And I think that's why, at one point the race lead for Hansen went from 5 seconds to 10 in about a 3-lap period. Maybe at that point they had given him a little bit too much courtesy, but once they decided we're tired of it, we're getting through, they were awfully physical. I mean, Harris pushed basically de Blasio out of the way, so there's no reason for de Blasio here, if he wants to get third away from Fabinage, he doesn't have any need to be too nice or gentle with it, because eventually they got sick of him and booted him. So how the turntables is de Blasio and Phillip, I think, again, with that tire advantage on Fabinage with about a 3-lap difference. Now, not that big of a difference now that we're 13 laps into the run as it once was, but I think they'll have a real good look at the 88 car if they want to end up at the podium by the time this thing's done. They're high enough. They're about 5 seconds ahead of Bowie in 6th. Same distance back to Lariah, Trudell, 7 and 8. So they do have enough room to fight, but if they fight too much, you'll see that similar situation that brought those Trudells and other guys into the battle up front earlier. Remember, Nolan, they were fighting so hard, it went from a 4-way battle to a 6-car battle. But they got room to work with. Lap traffic's going to continue to be a factor late in this race. Most of the heavily damaged or very slow cars have since gone to the garage. I just wonder if there's going to be a moment that shakes things up here late. It's calm for the time being. Not sure if that'll hold this time by. Look at the 12 laps to go.
It really would not surprise me if we were to see something big kick up in the late stages of the race. And this is actually a trend that I have been able to see and apply to a lot of different road course series that I've done as well. It's really exciting for the first half, kind of dies off a little bit for the first portion of the second half of the race, but it's all going to kick up within about 7 laps or so to go. That's typically how these types of races tend to play out, no matter what kind of field size you have. I've seen the same thing in 12-car Formula 3 races, so it certainly would not surprise me at all if we were to see the same trend play here today with this 40-car, or I guess, well, it's more now a 30-car, if that, stock car field here at the Sonoma Raceway. Here's one of the other battles out on the track that's been kind of picking up, but hasn't received a lot of attention so far. Eric de Blasio, Grant Davis, and Matthew Mara battling for 23rd, 24th, and 25th out there on the track. And the battle for second place and third, it's not too far behind these guys. In fact, at the moment, there's no lap traffic separating these two drivers. There's only about half a straightaway.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have those overlapping battles, right? Here's the onboard look in this battle with Mara. He's the 3rd car in this train, chasing Davis. That's the first car up the road right there. The Circle B diecast, number 24 Chevy, and then Eric de Blasio, the FedEx Toyota up the road. This is the battle for 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Always a fan of seeing Matt use the VR goggles. I've only tried it once, and that was on a... Oh, and there's a big checkup for de Blasio up there. Look out. Davis had to basically back out of that one. Amara going to try to go up to the inside, but gets a little bit too loose and to try again. It was basically a beta version of Rallycross before it got to the iRacing service publicly. It was at the SEMA show here at the Las Vegas Convention Center. It's the only time I've done VR. It was a ton of fun. I don't know if I can do it all the time, but certainly one of the cooler sim racing experiences. You feel like you are in the seat there, and we talk about tempers up front. Not to say that the guys in the 20s can't fight hard. Mara, not a fan of how that one transpired.
And I can't say I blame Matthew Mara. I mean, you saw it yourself on the onboard shot. Grant Davis had slid wide and then came right in and pretty much bodied the 23 car off the track. So, Mara, not the happiest campers there. I don't think a lot of drivers, including ourselves, would be. Grant Davis still did a good job, though, trying to run down the FedEx number 11 Toyota, see if he can maybe have a run of them. Oh, de Blasio really sideways that time by out of turn number 6. That's going to allow Davis to get the nose in there. But look at how much deeper on the brakes de Blasio was down at the turn 7, but he's going to overshoot by a little bit, trying to get the momentum, I think, through 7A. Grant Davis might have this spot done, though. And look out for Cody Harris in second place, starting to dart his way through this fight as well.
That's your P2 runner trying to get through traffic. He'll get by Mara, but you really can't make passes in the S's here. He needs to basically wait till they get down to 11 and hope that they give him a little bit of courtesy. This is turn number 9. Now slightly tighter right-hander for 10. Left side tires off and in the grass. The 24 goes wide. De Blasio will take that spot. The 24 of Davis wants to fight back, and Cody Harris caught between a rock and a hard place. He'll get around the 24 Now he has to deal with the 11, and that's a nice move there. Eric de Blasio lifts just a little bit to let that 6 car go on through. He tucks in line, no harm, no foul. Frenage now the next driver that's going to have to deal with traffic. He'll be followed by de Blasio, followed by Phillip. Could get a little bit messy here.
Here's the challenge with these lap battles here, trying to dice their way through. The guys up there, they technically do have the right to be able to fight their own respective battles for their own position. So the fact that these guys like Grant Davis are letting the field through, it is a courtesy that they're doing to the lead lap cars. The blue flags on iRacing are more advisory flags. It's not like if you fail to follow 3 of them, you're going to get penalized like you do in Formula 1 per se. So it's a difficult thing to do, trying to debate, do you want to go for these battles? Do you want to let the leaders through? Because you know eventually they're just going to move you out of the way to make room for themselves. Because obviously, no lead lap car is going to want to sit behind a lap car forever, no matter what kind of a battle they're in.
And now Mara wants to spot up the inside of Davis. It is for 24th on track, but Davis is very good at driving that car in deep, so it's going to be tricky for Mara. It's fun seeing that corner there, though, turn 7, which again could probably be 2 corners, but because clearly a double apexer, how tight some cars go, how wide some other guys go to lose on the front half, but get the big run going to the S's. Maybe they feel like that translates better to an overall advantage. I mean, so many little things that these drivers can do to try to find a little bit of an advantage here, a little bit of an advantage there. But space for the moment, maybe. Grant Davis with an opportunity to take a deep breath. Thomas George gives Jeremy Miller 17th position. That was a fight. You'll see he pop up and onto the scoring as that updates through. That was courtesy of a radio message from Thomas George, who said, Jeremy Miller, hey, you can have it. I'm tired of fighting you for it. 36 laps at Sonoma is hard work.
It is very hard work, and this is one of the most trying tracks there is on the calendar. It's certainly one of the most, it is the most trying road course on the calendar for sure. So much wheel work that goes into a track like this, and you can see Adam de Blasio dancing around to the brakes as well to the 21 cars. He turns it in. He's still trying to run an entry Frenage, and he did give Frenage the bumper through turn 11 as they were darting their way past Eric de Blasio, and that allowed Agno Phillips to really close the gap as well in the 94 car. So Phillip trying to have a run at things here. You can see there's de Blasio doing a little bit of drifting in the background around the entry of turn number 6. Now here comes Phillip trying to get the run of de Blasio. Can he make the move down to the turn number 7? Thinks better of it.
Probably could have. Inside's open, but you're right. Thinks better of it. He will wait. It maybe feels like if he does have the speed here, that opportunity will come. Granted, I'm surprised that both of them didn't pass Frenage some 6-7 laps ago. I figured they would have been able to get on through with that tire advantage. Now it's basically a wash. If you're going to get up to Andrew, it's going to have to be on merit. And again, I think the better comparison really would be to look at the last time we raced at Sonoma, right? NASCAR hasn't been here up until last weekend, since 2019. They did not race there last year. We did, right? We held our schedule. That race was won by Kyle Trudell, who I don't want to say he's been a non-factor, but after starting 13th and running 8th, hasn't been that fantastic. But the other top 5 finishers in that race, Liam Sheen not here. He's missing in this race for graduation, so big congrats to Liam. No, he would have been a factor if he was in this one. But the other ones would be Frenage, Kamer, and Lariah. Well, Andrew Frenage is 3rd. Exactly, he finished 4th in this race last time out, so with a pretty good showing. Kyle Kamer a little bit further down in 10th. Michael Lariah, somebody who we've touched on at points in this race, down in 7th. So your top 5 guys from last year are still top 10 cars, but I think that goes to show how much the competition has stepped up in just a calendar year.
And it's always the thing these guys have to watch out for. You have to make sure that you're always building on the year before. Yeah, the racing business tends to have a very important motto when it comes to, practice or just building in general. If you decide that you've had enough and you're just going to not practice at all, you're going to end up finishing further and further down the order. You always have to keep improving yourself from year to year. You can never approach one race with the same mentality that you did in the previous race, because the other guys, they will have learned from the last year, and they're going to be even more competitive the next year. You have to always build on your previous experiences at a track like this. And it goes to show just how competitive these fields can be. Everybody's trying to go for these types of spots at the exact same time, and now we're starting to see these battles starting to pick up more and more, and we're seeing the skill of these drivers from the last time we raced here coming out in full as well.
And that's, you know, there are some iRacing leagues that will have, you know, either scheduled pit stop, caution at halfway, you know, or randomly timed yellow. I mean, different times for a caution flag to come out in the race. And I like when these things can go green because it allows the strategy to play out. Matt Mara apologized over the radio. I believe there was a big wreck involving Eric de Blasio. Those cars were fighting for 23rd and 24th. Let's see. This is turn number 10. Mara gets loose. Oh, and an awful spot for de Blasio, who smokes the tires. And then he got hit by the 7 of Kyle Trudell, who has damaged the 8th placed car.
And nothing Trudell or de Blasio could do in that situation. They just had nowhere to go in the position on the track. That was a huge hit. One of the hardest we've seen all night so far on the race. And just as, like you say that, look at this battle. De Blasio now under fire from Phillip. De Blasio smokes the tires on the exit of turn 6, but he's going to have the inside for 7 if he wants to go for it. He backs off, though, and allows that to Phillip to take away the 4th position, but Phillip might overshoot Adam de Blasio. Is going to allow him to hold the position. Decided not to fight him through turn 7. So finally, de Blasio drops back to 5th.
Took how many tries for Agnew Phillip to get the job done? I hear 3rd time's the charm, maybe 8th time's the charm. I mean, he tried for lap after lap, specifically in that part of the racetrack, though, right? Oftentimes he was within a car length that he thought about it down the drag strip to 7. The big advantage there was he was actually able to get to the inside by the carousel, and he had the track positioning going off into 7. This time it was a role reversal with de Blasio driving it into the corner. But Phillip defends. He is up now to a race high of position 4. Started this race in 5th. But I wonder if they fought for too long to get back to Farinaj. He is about a 1.5 seconds up the road from Phillip. So with 6 laps to go, we'll have to keep it down the intervals there.
They would have to gain about 1/3 of a second every lap from here to make it all the way up there. And with Phillip having to defend against de Blasio behind, I don't think they're going to have enough time. We're coming up now to what's going to be 5 laps to go at the line this next time by. So unless they can really pull something off in a big way here, with only 3 lap pressure tires, like we talked about before, that's not going to play that big of a factor here this late into a tire run. I think that might be it in that battle for 3rd, unless Farinaj has a major mistake.
What I said is there going to be some late race moments. Saw the wreck with Stanford, saw the pass for 4th. How about another battle? Bradley Burke, the last driver on the lead lap. Can he stay there in position number 18? Just got around Jeremy Miller, so that's going to make Miller now the car in that fight. Actually, they're both now going to be a lap down. Danson caught him that last time when we weren't looking. Last car on the lead lap is now Rabel in 16th, but this is a fight. Burke just now passing to Miller. Going to try to pull away. A little bit of back end damage. Remember, the 95 had that spin Nolan opening lap of the race. And he has done, I think all things considered, a pretty good job of recovering. Started this race 19th, wrecked and fell to the 30s. He has driven away back up to 18th. So that tells me that he had a good race car. Without that incident, probably could have been a top 15, but nonetheless a very good recovery after that setback on the opening lap.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Bradley Burke has had one good run so far this race. Oh, Miller slides it on the back. That's going to give Bradley Burke a lot of breathing room. And he's going to try to maybe make a run on Thomas George here for P17 if he can get up to him in these closing laps. But absolutely. I mean, Bradley Burke has had a really good recovery drive so far. Like you said, fell all the way back to the last place on the racetrack with that opening lap incident. So the fact that he's been able to work his way up there through all of the attrition and even some good battles so far, it goes to show that sometimes you just need to get yourself some clean air and get yourself further up there into the field that way when everything settles down up in front. And you saw Thomas George have a really bad turn 8. That's going to allow Burke right up on him for 9 and then for 10 as well.
Looking at the tires in this group of race cars, Bradley Burke, I thought, wow, he's, driving through the field. Must have got fresher tires than everybody else. Not the case. It is just good, consistent, long-run speed for that TobyChristie.com Chevrolet. And with that, move on the 9, move him up to position number 17 as the scoring updates at the stripe. Continuing to move his way on through. He may even have a look to challenge the likes of Rabel and Casto up the road, who are in a good fight of their own for 15th and 16th position. There they are, down to the carousel. And it is to the inside, a squeeze for the 29er Rabel.
It's not over yet. Sean Katz is going to try to pull the inside for turn 6, but all this is going to do is put Chris Rabel in the great spot to have him back in turn 7 for the double hairpin up there for 7 and 7A. If he can get a good drive off of this corner, and he hasn't, Sean Castro has gotten a better drive off of 6. And look at that, Chris Rabel backs off enough. Oh, that Sean Castro overshoots himself, goes way too deep into the end zone for the drag strip, and that is going to really compromise his run. You'll look at the gap now between the two of them.
Yeah, there are some drivers who go wide there to get a run, right? We've seen that work. That was not going wide to get a run. He just got a little bit, I don't know, deer in the headlights, forgot his braking point at some 140 miles an hour off into that corner, went a little bit too far, and basically hands off that position to Rabel, who for the moment back up to the number 15 spot. He's a +5 on the afternoon. Castro's still going to have an opportunity to try to get back to him and fight this one out. 28 cars still in this race. Of the 40 who started it, 16 are on the lead lap. You see the number 21 under fire. That's Adam de Blasio in the number 5 spot. Brandon Bowie has caught him. Could be a late race battle for that spot.
And this is now with just 3 laps to go, coming to it at least this next time by at the line. So now the question for Brandon Bowie is going to be, can he come up and take a top 5 position away from Adam de Blasio? And it's a very possible thing to do. Last lap by, almost a full second, just a couple hundredths off, being a full second away for being faster than Adam de Blasio's time. We'll have to check what it is this time by at the line, but he is still really giving him a run for his money here. So de Blasio, these two drivers at the moment, this is where it's going to be at here in the final run here. Just 0.4 of a second separated them last time by. Another half a second quicker for Brandon Bowie out through the final corners.
Oh, so good late in this one. Brandon Bowie was actually one of the first cars to pit amongst the race leaders. So it's very impressive. And we talked about, if these guys were coming down pit road at lap number 18, lap number 19 or so, I think he was a little bit later than those numbers, but that's when the pit stop cycle began. We were saying, well, if you're struggling now, wait till you got to go 25, 26 to the end of the race. So I'm surprised we haven't seen as many single car offs. It's impressed how well a lot of these drivers have been able to make these tires work on a longer second stint.
But that also helps the fact that now they know what the tires are going to do on a longer run. I know that there are quite a few drivers, maybe not in this field, but out there on the iRacing service that only practice on the 5 or 10 lap sprints. They don't do, a full fuel run. But now that these guys know what the car reacts like in the longer run, they're a lot more prepared for it the second time they come around for it. I think that's why we haven't been seeing as much incidents. It also helps that a lot of the battles that we were seeing in the early half of the race are a lot more split up now. One battle that is not split up though at all, 14th, 5th, and 15th. Jared Weimer under 5 for Chris Rabel with race leader Matt Danson literally right on their bumpers as well.
Puts the nose to the inside. He will drive it in side by side for 5th. They touch. And for the at least 4th time tonight, de Blasio moved out of the way for a spot and moved Brandon Bowie into the top 5.
Brandon Bowie up to the top 5 with a very commanding move down the inside of the turn 11. Kind of right alongside de Blasio, and de Blasio at this point is more than familiar with what that feels like in this race. What is that, like the 5th time that's happened to him now in the last 20 laps or so?
It feels like it, at least.
And there is the battle for 15th and 14th with race leader Matt Danson coming to take the white flag. The battle did swap hands up in turn 4 with Rabel and Wymaster swapping hands as they were letting Matt Danson through. A little bit of contact was made in that battle as well, just on the exit, but nobody spun around. They're still running nice and good and pretty clean for those cars as well. So Matt Danson just going to have about 2.75 miles to go at the moment.
And we talk about how impressive Danson was, right, over the course of the winter in the IRAPS Winter Series. Winning the championship, snapping what had been a 2-year championship streak for Friedrich, having gone back-to-back as he gets the white flag and 1 lap to go here from Sonoma. But it wasn't a blistering start to 2021 on the Cup side of things for him, Nolan. These Cup cars are very different than the Xfinity cars. It's been a good year for Danson, right? If you don't count the wins and you just look at a normal point structure of drivers who have made almost all the starts, he's a top 10 car, easy. But he hadn't got a win. And we went off Dakota. He said he wasn't that confident and had to fight very hard to get that win, but it has clearly sparked something in him. He was picture perfect so far and has got about 6 more corners to go.
So Matt Danson, a dominated run for him. I think that's the only way you can really put this. He's led every single lap. I'm pretty sure including through the pit cycle as well, because he was one of the last drivers to come down to the box as well. So Danson has put on an absolute clinic today. Of course, just because we're on the last lap does not mean that any of the battles are over by any stretch of the means. Still got guys trying to go side by side all over the place. So it's a lot of things to still keep our eyes on as Danson starts to enter that final sector of the lap.
We talked playoff points earlier tonight. There were 8 different race winners, but only 1 driver had multiple. And that's Andrew Friedrich, who has been on a tear in the second half of this regular season. He won 4 races in a 5-week span just a month ago. But Matt Danson has turned up the wick, and as he comes through the second to last quarter at Sonoma, he'll become the second different multi-race winning driver in 2021 and get his 3rd win in 3 weeks. Final time, Matt Danson, Sonoma Cup Series winner.
He took Coda by the horns and he wrangled them into place. He does the same at Sonoma. The car started across the line. Harris is now just coming around through turn 11 this time by, and he has no competition from Friedrich who behind. It was a solid 6 seconds back. This is the first battle on the track here is between de Blasio and Bowie, which did swap hands, it did swap hands last time by. So de Blasio, unless Bowie has the almightiest of sins and turns up some grip hacks there, de Blasio will have this position for P5 more than settled on the edge of the corner, although Bowie definitely tries for the send.
Took a look, can't get there. De Blasio will hang on for that spot. Bowie gets 7. The fun part of these road races is it's not done till well after the checkered flag. Kyle Trudell being chased by Sam Nieto in a battle for 8th and 9th. Trudell hangs on for that one. He will finish in order. Even further down the road, Kyle Kamer in the final corner. Gonna hang off Joseph Tice, who tries late, and that should just about cycle through most of the cars on the lead lap. And a victory for Matt Danson. I know Matt had mentioned on the After the Laps podcast, that he got the win at Coda, but he was mad that I wasn't there to give him his race-winning call. So there you go, Matt. Welcome back to RSR Cup Series victory lane. All of the lead lap cars just now cycling through this race is official. So as he comes by to celebrate, let's take a look at your SimSeats full race results. Danson gets the win by 32 seconds over Cody Harrison, second by 38 seconds over Andrew Farinaj in third. We'll talk with them in a moment. Agno Phillip, Adam de Blasio inside of the top 5, with Bowie, Lariah, Trudell, Nieto, and Kamer the top 10.
Joseph Tice, Brett McBride, Nick Silva round out the cars that finished on the lead lap, with Chris Vrabel, Sean Castillo, Weinmaster, Bradley Berg, Thomas George, Jimmy Miller, and William Schmidt rounding out the top 20. Good job, by the way, on Bradley Berg. Worked his way up at the end of the day over half the field to finish in 17th.
Yeah, hard work and stuff. Ahead of the midfield, Cato, Chambliss, Davis, and Ibarra finish within a lap of the race leaders. Joe Yates and a Benazzi Major within 2. Steve Soa and Trevin Valderrama finished 4 laps down, 27 and 28, with Eric de Blasio and Sean Kalis the top 30.
And then to round out the field, all drivers that had not finished this race: Eric Stanford, Nicholas Barr, Marius Lachinsky, Dylan Jones, Daniel Eberhardt, Dylan Coyle, Michael Kuczynski, Steve Durham, Trey Browning, and Dominic Howe to round out the 40-car field from the race at Sonoma.
Look top to bottom at your SimSeats full race results. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from the amateur to the pro ranks, and everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, and on any track by visiting sim-seats.com to learn more information. What a race for Matt Danson. What a celebration as he is headed to victory lane. Nolan, we are waiting on your race leader, but Cody Harris, who came home second tonight, is standing by with you.
Indeed, he is. So, we bring up Cody Harris, the second driver to finish on the podium today. Well, Cody, what a race for you, especially in the early runnings. Adam de Blasio really gave you guys a run for your money, but at the end of the day, you managed to pull out a 6-second gap over Andrew Freenach to take away the second step on the podium. So 45 laps later, how are you feeling?
Yeah, that was a pretty good race there. Yeah, Adam was pretty hard to pass. I think had I gotten clear of them sooner, I would have been closer to Matt, but he definitely had the field covered there.
We kind of looked throughout the course of the race. It was a much tighter race this time around than it was at the last road course race at the Circuit of the Americas. A very different track profile, of course, one that the stock cars have a lot of rich history with at this place. Well, what are your thoughts about the track as a whole? It's definitely far from the easiest road course you go to, and we were mentioning as well, it's one of the most trying races of the year, as a matter of fact, when it comes to just the overall track layout.
Yeah, I was definitely better at Circuit of the Americas and some of the other road courses. I've always struggled a little bit here just because it's so slick with the heat and the tires. It's really a game of just trying to keep your rear tires on it so you can get good exits off the turns.
We look forward to next week. Not a points race next week. It is the All-Star race. And what's going to be a brand new facility, the Nashville Super Speedway, confirmed to be coming to iRacing in just this next week here, as a matter of fact. And that is where the All-Star race is scheduled to be held. So a brand new track, not a lot of time at all to get a car set up for it. So what do you think that race is going to be like for the All-Star race?
I have no idea, I guess. We'll have to, once the track is released, have to get it and put in some practice laps to have a good shot at it.
Well, here's hoping you to have a good run there in that All-Star race as well, coming up in just 1 week's time. Before I let you go then, Cody, who helps you to get it done in that number 6 machine?
Yeah, I just want to thank all my friends and family for being supportive of me doing this iRacing, and obviously you guys for putting on this great series every week.
Thank you, Cody, for taking the time out of your night to come and join us up here in the broadcast booth. Congratulations on a hard-fought second place today. Best of luck next week in Nashville.
Thank you.
That, Evan, was your second place finisher on the podium. Cody Harris, 32 seconds behind your race leader.
And let's go to the top step of the podium. It is his second race win in 3 weeks, and a road course checkered flag once again. Matt Danson, your race winner in tonight's SimSeats 114. Matt, congratulations on the win. It all started a couple of weeks back when you said, I'm not really sure what's going to happen at COTA. And since then, back to back on the twisty tracks. Talk us through this one. Pretty dominating.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sonoma. Really enjoy the track. And I guess I was way more confident with this race, like you mentioned, but I got to the server and looked at the times and saw the track temp. I thought, wow, that's pretty competitive. And went out there, did a couple of laps in practice, and I was looking reasonably quick. But I thought, gee, we might be closer than I thought on this one. And did my first lap in quali. Not sure if it was caught on the broadcast, but my first lap I was sort of tracking probably around about a P3, P4. It's just a little bit off, and so I bailed on that attempt, and put all my chips on the table for the second lap, and was lucky enough to get the pole. And then the race, it was just about managing managing the pace. I sort of had Adam and Andrew and that sort of there with me for the first few laps, and judging from where they were faster than me on the track, just looking at the relative, I could sort of get an idea that eventually that would, flip, because they were getting me more so in the traction zones, and obviously that's not going to last forever. So, particularly with the way I was driving, so it all sort of went pretty smooth sailing from there, and then it was just a matter of sort of working my way through the traffic, and everyone was very accommodating, and it was pretty uneventful, but enjoyable at the same time.
You talked about, not being certain with Coda and obviously being a new track to these stock cars and road racing compared to a track like Sonoma that you felt a lot more comfortable at. What were some of the biggest differences here compared to 2 weeks ago?
Before we did that race, I'd never, actually no. So that week was the first time I'd ever done any laps at Coda at all, and I guess I really hadn't, obviously I watched a lot of F1, but I guess I hadn't absorbed the layout, when watching it from the broadcast level. But so for me, it was just starting from scratch, and I guess the layout of that track, I don't know if it just didn't really feed into my, style. Like the first sector I enjoyed, which was strange. At first I didn't like the whole sweeping section, but I feel like that kind of feeds into my style more than those weird sort of progressive apex, sort of corners that it has later in the lap. So, Sonoma is a lot more like, especially that second half of the lap at Sonoma is very similar to the first sector of Coda, and I guess that just felt more at home. Particularly as well, like Sonoma with the tire management, I think is probably the biggest thing. As you saw, the times were pretty close in quality, but then you get big disparity in tires after only 5 laps.
And of course, now the strength on these road courses is going to start to add some bonus points, right? For each of these wins, you're going to get an extra 3 points to start the round of 16. And then now with 2 race wins, it's 100% guaranteed that you'll be in the playoffs. Not that that was a question to begin with, because you guys have been a top 10 car in points, regardless of the win bonus and all that. But, as we go into the All-Star break and then return the week after that with a brand new oval headed to the Nashville Super Speedway, I know you haven't quite been happy with where your oval program has been. There's a lot of road courses in the second half of the regular season. Still Road America to come, still Watkins Glen to come, but with only the Roval being the lone road race in the playoffs, I know you guys feel like you're probably going to have to pick some places to improve from. Now that you've got the wins, at least here on the road courses, do you use these oval races coming up this regular season to try some different things? I mean, what's that process going to be like? Try to fine tune and make sure you're at 110% come the real deal when we go playoff racing.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mentioned on it. I got to get the name out there before I forget, because I will otherwise. On After the Turns last week, which is on tomorrow night, of course. I mentioned that I sort of feel like one of my hero sort of drivers. My favorite driver growing up, Juan Pablo Montoya. I sort of feel like him in terms of I got the road course stuff down pat. People sort of expect that, but I've shown that I know I've got speed on ovals. I mean, that's my forte, if anything, but I just haven't put that, haven't closed it out in RSR so far, other than, winter series. But, so I'm pretty eager to get that sorted. I think it's just a matter of, I really need to work on qualifying. I think, fundamentally that's where my issues are coming from, because I'm qualifying poorly, then finding myself in, mess that I probably shouldn't find myself in. So I think that'll be my focus, is really just drilling in on getting a better run at quali. And after bombing out of Road to Pro with a pretty average season there, I'll be able to put a lot more focus into my quali side of things, and hopefully have a really strong second half. And like you said, those ovals it's all well and good to be good at road courses, but if there's only one in the playoffs, it's not going to mean anything. So that'll be my focus in the second half, is really get that sorted out.
Been a good last couple of weeks, and hopefully for your sake that continues, Matt. I know that the Mara is going to be happy that you got their plug in. We talked about the podcast a lot. We'll be tuning in tomorrow night. Before we let you go, sponsors and shout outs and all those good folks. Anybody else you want to say hi to?
yeah, obviously, first and foremost, you guys for putting on everything, and particularly you, Evan. There was a lot of discussion that you have to sort of filter through, so which probably actually started by me. So I apologize for that, creating more trouble for you. But so obviously, yeah, RaceSpot, everyone involved there, and then on my side, Altus Esports, of course, we've got Logitech G, Astro Gaming. Virtual Racing School. On that note, actually, I was happy to see Sam Nieto come home with a P9. And if memory serves, I think he either got P5 or P6 in quali, which I was really proud of. He was bugging me a lot during the week to do some laps and do some practice, and we put both of our laps into VRS, and we're able to really drill down on where he was losing time, where he could gain, and he made big time improvements. He made about 2.5 seconds throughout the week, so it's a testament to VRS and how strong that is. It's not just about setups; it's everything else. So VRS, owned live for all your streaming needs, RaceTech seats and cube controls.
Looking forward to seeing what you got in the All-Star race next time out. Matt, appreciate you racing with us on Monday nights. Congratulations on win number 2.
Thank you, sir. See ya.
The race winner tonight from Sonoma in the SimSeats 114, Matt Danson joins Freedage as the only other multi-time winner in 2021. It's win number 2 for him on the season. Speaking of which, Andrew Freedage, another top finish tonight. This time it's 3rd in the road race at Sonoma, and Nolan is with the driver of the 88.
Well, Andrew, you bring home with yet another podium, this time at the Sonoma Raceway, and you had to really work for this one. It was a hard-fought battle. At the end of the day, didn't go up any positions, didn't lose any, but guys like Adam de Blasio, Cody Harris, Agno Phillip, and others, they sure gave you a run for your money today.
Yeah, I think I'm vocal about it. I don't like these road courses. Practiced my butt off at Coda, and that didn't go so well. Practiced my butt off here, and it really didn't go like I wanted it to, but I'm happy to get a 3rd. We pulled a strategy out, and I'm not really sure how, but it worked. And yeah, I mean, little dents on the car, but brought it home with a podium, so we'll definitely take it.
A little dents on the car certainly seems to be the story for just about every single machine out there on the grid today. We look over at the pit strategy in particular. We were talking about this quite a bit, actually, around that halfway point about how some drivers wanted to go longer, some drivers came in. So what was kind of the reasoning for you to come in, around the time when you did, when right about the halfway point? Some drivers came in a few laps after, some drivers came in a few laps earlier. You're kind of right in the middle ground there.
Yeah, we were racing Adam there, and I got under him, and the whole thing happened there. I got on the gas a little too much, and we got damaged, and from there, the car just wasn't turning, and the tires were hot. I was losing time, and I was about to get passed there by Michael for 5th, and I said, why not? Let's just pit. It surprisingly, I tried to save him as best I could when I came out, and Cody got by, but we were able to hang on to him pretty well. We didn't get too loose, and yeah, I mean, that was just the thinking is, we have wins this year. We're in the points lead. We want to keep in the points lead, but, we have some room to play with, and that's kind of what we did.
So we look forward to the Nashville Super Speedway, which is going to be, of course, at the All-Star race. And, of course, like we said, the Nashville Super Speedway, a to-be-determined race coming up in 2 weeks as well after the All-Star race in just 1 week's time. It's a brand new facility here to not just the RealSimRacing League, but also to the iRacing service as a whole, which means a lot of drivers, yourself included, they're not going to have a whole lot of time to be able to get to grips with the track, get a setup built up. So that race bound to be a chaotic one, to say at the very least. So what's going to be the plan for you coming into the brand new track on the iRacing surface?
Yeah, I'm for the most part excited. I don't remember much of it. I know they ran Xfinity cars way back when, but 1.3 mile track. I think we're gonna have high horsepower, low downforce. So any track that has it, I'm very excited for. Hopefully it's loose and you really got to drive the thing. As far as the All-Star race, I think you guys are going to be using the new car. I don't own that, and I really don't plan on owning it for a while, if ever. So probably going to take the All-Star week off if that is the case. But yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to Nashville. Hopefully get some practice on that speedway, and we'll see what we can do.
Well, we're certainly miss seeing you battling for the wins at that All-Star race, but of course, you're not going to be losing a whole lot out of it. It is a non-points race, so that is the good news there. You're not missing out on a whole lot. So well, we have to wish you the best of luck then at the 1.3 mile super speedway coming up for round number 13. So before we let you go then here, Andrew, it's been a pleasure as always, but you got anybody that'd like to shout out for that number 88 machine?
Yeah, big thanks to the sponsor in the car, the Sim Racer film. Everybody go check it out on social media. It's going to be a film here coming up pretty soon about sim racing. It's going to be on Amazon, so everybody go check that out. Big thank you to being on the car. Evan, for all the work he's done with this series, all you guys for the broadcast, all the fans. I know it was a little boring there, but I hope we put on a show. Me and Agnell were having a pretty good battle for third, and all the drivers, they gave room. It was tough, hard racing, but I really enjoy coming out Monday, and they're kind of what makes the show. So thank you to all those guys.
We'll put on a show you did, and no doubt we're looking forward to see what kind of a show will be put on in a couple weeks as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to join us here, Andrew, and we'll see you in a couple weeks then here at the Nashville Super Speedway for round 13.
Yeah, have a good few weeks, guys.
And that is going to round out the podium here then for the race here at the Sonoma Raceway. Of course, well, you heard him there, not planning to join us for the All-Star race. Very unfortunate. You'd think if there's ever a guy that would be in the All-Star race, it'd be your 3-time defending champion.
No kidding, right? And the funny thing is, we still don't know what we're gonna do for the All-Star race. So we'll there's a couple of ideas up in my head, and I will allow the drivers to give some input on it. We're not gonna make them go do a 24-hour Nürburgring race in a car. The only thing we do know is it is gonna be the first time at RSR competition that we're using the next gen NASCAR cars, so that'll be exciting to see. And don't be surprised if we're at a street course or a short track or something fun, right? That's the idea. I know last time the timing worked out so good that it was at North Wilkesboro Speedway last year, so maybe a short track of similar style. But at least in this context, 2 road races down, 2 more to go in the regular season. I posed 2 situations at the start of the night. Either Matt Danson wins all 4 road races, or we have 4 different road race winners, right? He dominated the field here this evening. It was very clear how comfortable he was at this racetrack compared to Coda, and he even admits, listen, he got that championship in the Icebreaker Winter Series powered by iRaps, which is those Xfinity cars. It's different than the Cup cars. He's still working on it on the oval side of things, but he has to feel good with these wins going forward. He knows he's going to be in the playoffs. He knows he can get top 10s, top 5s consistently eventually in the postseason. He's going to need a little bit more. And that's going to be something that he continues to work on. Nashville is going to be fun. We'll talk about this when we get All-Star Racing, but that's going to be a brand new track. It's a concrete 1.33 mile speedway. I do believe, to what Andrew said, that it is going to be the high horsepower, low downforce. That should be fun. And not often, I can't remember the last time we had a new oval added to the calendar, right? So looking forward to that one with a lot of questions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Nashville Super Speedway, it's been a track that people on iRacing have been asking for how long now? How many years have we wanted this track on? Finally, iRacing delivers, and I cannot wait to see what we're going to do. I wish we could put it in for my own league that I run as well. I mean, we're a bit too late in our season to go ahead with it next year, of course. But that's going to be one heck of a race for sure, and I honestly cannot wait to see what we're going to have. It's a brand new track. People are not going to have a lot of time to be able to get themselves sorted. They're going to have like a week and a half or so to be able to get themselves situated at the track, get a setup figured out, and then figure out how to not just have a setup built, but also race competitively there. That is going to be a race where nobody is going to have an advantage. Everybody's going to be on equal footing come 2 weeks from now, really.
We took a gamble. We put Nashville on the calendar in February, just hoping that iRacing would come through. If it didn't show up, it was going to be a Pocono doubleheader. A lot of people didn't want to race twice in Pocono. Yeah, so it lucks out, and we will have iRacing confirming Nashville's coming to the service in 2 days, so we'll be there in 2 weeks' time. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Sonoma. We are going All-Star Racing next time out. So on behalf of our entire team behind the scenes at RaceSpot TV and RealSimRacing, and of course for your broadcast crew this evening, as always, for our producer downstairs, Hugo Luis, for Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and congratulations to Matt Danson, a 2-time winner this year, taking home the checkered flag here tonight from Sonoma. But we are back in 1 week's time, Monday, June the 14th, for the SimSeats All-Star Race. That race and every race of the 2021 SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpot TV. Until next time, good night from Sonoma, where Matt Danson dominates again.